ago when they told me who I'm supposed to be. Guess I'll get a life to rewrite my sexuality.
Oh, hi. It's so nice to be talking to you. I'm taking a piece of candy because, I don't know, my throat feels a little... So I have to say that I was on the Tic Tac dragon. What do you call that when they're chasing a dragon? I was chasing the dragon with the Tic Tac. It was an addiction. And I'll tell you why it was an addiction. Because I was trying to stay away from garbage. Because a couple months ago I had gained 3 pounds and that got me nervous. Citrus Adventure. It almost tastes like you're having sour candy. And I think that's a little bit of a cheat. Like a cheat code, because I love sour candy, but I can't eat that shit. So this is my Manjaro. It's Tic Tacs. It's my Wegovy. So there is, I want to say, like this beautiful little chapel where I live now. It's a lovely, beautiful chapel. I almost like the chapel more than the church. I go and pray and I talk to God. You know, I sit down, I look at Jesus, right? I look at the crucifix and I'm like, I say my memorized prayers that I know. And then I start asking God, like, what are you doing? You know, what the fuck is wrong with you? And then I'll say, like, my prayer. But so I'll be praying and talking to God. And then I'll stop. And then I'll say, are you even fucking real? Am I just fucking talking to the wind? You know, am I just talking to the fucking pew in front of me? Am I talking to just marble? Are you fucking real? I curse and everything at God. I do that. Yeah. Anyway, where am I? I have some chicken scratch in front of me. And let me see what I wrote here. Today, because I want to comment on this. Because we're always talking about eggs, which are horrific. The price is still out fucking landish. Because grocery prices, it matters to regular people. That kind of affects our life. But anyway, grapes. Fucking grapes were $9.99 a pound for grapes. So I went over to the girl that was stuck because I just wanted to complain to because I was by myself. So I just wanted to complain to somebody about it. So I went over to the girl. She was stocking blackberries. And so I just said, oh, how much are the blackberries? They were fucking $9 too. A little tiny container. Maybe there was, I don't know, 15. Maybe there was 15 little blackberries in this container for like $8. I think it was 8 something. And so I said, oh, God, 8, Jesus Christ. She goes, oh, yeah, I know. And then I said, the grapes are $9. You know, because you commiserate with the people who are packing the grapes because you know that they're feeling the prices too. So I commiserated with her about the price. How can grapes be $9.99? You know, well, I got a pound anyway. And then the cherries I got cherries too. I don't know if they're in season. The cherries were on sale, though. They were like $7 or $8, so that was a good deal. $7, $8 for fucking, I don't know, 2 handfuls of cherries. That's okay. You know, I can't complain about these things. Am I not supposed to complain? Like, are we just supposed to pretend that everything is just hunky-dory? Everything is just fine? Like, it's not affecting us? These fucking outlandish prices are not like, you can't even eat fruit? I still haven't adjusted to the fact that grocery prices are what they are. It's like, are we supposed to adjust? I don't know. You tell me. So they opened up a bunch of stores that's very close to where I live. And it's kind of exciting to have a bunch of stores that's in walking distance. That's kind of nice. But now there's a ton of traffic all over the place. So go build it in the gated communities. Go build a big, massive stores, put them right near the $10 million homes so that we could, you know, block up their houses and we could block up the whole block with traffic. And that, I think I'd prefer that. Anyway, nobody asked me. So I'm having gum that I bought in Five Below Am I doing another commercial? In Five Below, and it tastes like broccoli. Who's a lesbian? Is anybody a lesbian anymore, or is everybody a man? Are we loving this? Are lesbians loving that? I don't know. We spent 40 years telling everybody that it's not that we want to be men. It's just that we like women. I don't know. We spent 40 years doing the work to educate the public, telling them, no, I have no desire to be a man. I'm just attracted to women, right? I mean, we very much spent 40 years trying to get that point across. And as it turns out, oh my God, I guess we do want to be men. My gum tastes like broccoli. I wish that I wasn't even attracted to women. I wish that I wasn't. Maybe I'm not. Maybe I'm not even attracted to women anymore. Maybe I don't even like them. Well, as it stands now, I do not like anybody in the LGBTQFU community. I don't like any of that because they're all men. They all want to be men. So what am I supposed to do? I don't like men in that way. I like women. So if the LGBT community, LGBTQFU, if they're all men, if we're all men now, and only a few gay men are actually women, then what? I don't know. Nobody sees a problem with this. Everybody thinks it's fine. Let's cater to it. I don't care. I wish I didn't care. That's the truth. So what am I saying? I don't know. All right, let me rock and roll. Let me tick and tack.
They wanna paint me different now. Tell me what I am somehow. But reality ain't up for pseudo deconstruction.
I'm thinking of, well, I watched Ellen DeGeneres. I watched her last stand-up special. I think she put it out last year. I'm not sure. I think it was in 2024. And it was, I don't know, I think a pretty quiet release or whatever they call it. I think it was pretty quiet because I didn't hear anything or anybody talking about it. So I watched her special, and I mean, she didn't seem very sad. So that helped me to not really like take on her emotions of being sad. If she is sad, who knows? Maybe she doesn't care. I can't imagine that she doesn't care, but well, I'm just going to say this up front, right? Like you say to yourself, who fucking cares? So what? She's like half a billionaire almost. Who fucking cares? Not for the sake of being mean, not to say it like, oh, fuck her, but it's to say like, who fucking cares? You have so much money. Who gives a shit? And then it's to say, should she give a fuck? When she's just fine. You find some other fucking hobby, you know? And then for us, like, we don't have to feel bad for her. How do you feel bad for somebody who made $500 fucking million doing nothing, doing what you do on a daily basis? You joke around with your friends or whatever, you know, like, who gives a fuck really? Like, we shouldn't care. And I'm not here to say like, oh, we should feel bad for, you know, the 100 millionaires. We should feel bad for that. No, that is not what I'm saying here. But I think there is a little bit more to think about with something like this. Like, she vanished. And I mean, compared to everyone else in this kind of scene, this entertainment, I guess, Hollywood scene, right? I don't know, like, it's hard to think of Ellen and not remember that she was kind of a beacon of sorts. I'm not trying to elevate her, and I particularly have a thing about not elevating these people. It really bugs me the way over the past 20, 30, 40 years, the way they've been built up to this level that you can't speak about them, which is why people loved Wendy Williams, because she would just speak about the filth, and no one used to be able to speak about the shit that they would get involved in. Like, you couldn't say boo about any of them, right? So it was refreshing to hear someone talk about these people in what I thought was an appropriate way. Sometimes she took it a little too far. That's another story, but I will say she identified in that show as a lesbian woman, which I thought was pretty remarkable to go out like that. Like, she's not going to turn around and say, oh, I'm queer. I'm sure she uses the word queer. I don't know if she does or she doesn't. But I thought that was, I don't know. I'm sure she didn't intend it to be this way, but I felt like, oh, good, slap them in the face. You're not queer. You're not mask. You're a lesbian. And essentially, that is what most of the people who say they're queer women, they're basically just lesbos. You're just a boring lesbian. I don't know. I mean, as a lesbian person now, I'm a little bit, looking at the lesbian scene right now a little more, which does not exist because it's now been absorbed into LGBTQ. Like when you go to a quote unquote lesbian party, which is marketed to lesbians, where you're really going is to an LGBTQ plus queer plus trans plus, which means they're letting any man that comes to the door, they have to let them in because they have absolutely no leg to stand on to turn away any male whatsoever. So if a man hears about a lesbian party, any dude, he can go into any lesbian, again, parties that are marketed to women, to lesbian women, but are essentially not. Any persuasion of male can enter these spaces. So the way lesbians have been treated over the past, specifically in the last decade, any kind of lesbian voice, concern, experience, anything, it's all been pushed aside. And actually, we've been not only just erased, but we had to be demonized first in order to be erased. So as the queer/trans activists, have gained more visibility and influence, lesbians have been completely pushed out, which is very unfair, especially considering that we were still fighting for our own space. So I think I am kind of making a little bit of a comparison as to the way Ellen was pushed out. And I think it spoke more to just the fact that lesbians were pushed out. Not that Ellen DeGeneres is the Jesus of lesbians, but, her vilification. First of all, they misrepresented her, and then she was vilified and now just entirely ignored. And whatever she did, was she an asshole? I don't know. Maybe, probably. I mean, she's a Hollywood celebrity stuff. Like, they were all assholes, but for the most part, that's not nice to say. I'm sorry. But I'm saying, like, do I know her personally? No, I do not. So I can't speak to whether she was or was not a complete asshole to the fact that, Jesus Christ, they had to destroy a 20, 30-year career. Like, in a way, they shoved her back in some closet because she never really had a chance to speak. Like, I wish she would have had at least a going out interview to tell her side of the story, because no one knows her side of the story. And even still, I thought I was going to get more from her in her last stand-up as to, like, hey, look, they said this about me, and this is not true. This is what really happened. I don't know. Like, I think the complaints about her, the few that I read online, were ridiculous. And I know that they added some weird racial twist in it. I mean, which was so crazy. But, And then you see her going to a ball game with George Bush. Can you fucking blame her? I don't know. She probably had more in common with George Bush than the lesbian world at that point. I didn't like seeing that, but who the fuck cares? Frankly, was he a revolting blight on this country? I would say so. I don't think everybody feels that way. But how many of these people fraternize with all different kinds of disgusting, open racists, open rapists, by the way, like nothing. And she can't go to a ball game. I think I'll say this. I think it was not what she did. It was her response. And whoever advised her to respond the way she did, as if to say, like, go fuck yourself. Not that she said, go fuck yourself. Okay, I want to be careful what I'm saying. And to be honest, I really didn't do enough research on this because my eyes are bothering me. And I can't, all the reading to find everything out. And it takes so long to really. So I'm sorry if I'm not fully informed. But nobody else knows what the fuck they're talking about. And it never stops them from talking about shit they have no understanding or experience with. They don't give a fuck, especially when it comes to lesbians. They don't feel they have to know anything other than the 5 minutes that you existed in their head before they started talking about you. Anyway, so her response was kind of shitty, and I didn't like it. And then when people got mad at her, I was like, good, she should hear it. He's disgusting and, like, whatever. But then it just kept going and going and going. And then some guy on Twitter, of course, it's always Twitter where people go to behead you. He did some thread. I think he was a gay guy, and he did some long thread about how just, oh my God, Ellen, the way he was delivering what he said that she did, you would think that he actually saw her hanging people upside down by their toes. The way he spoke about her, it was like he was really dishing out the dirt. He was really giving you dirt on what a demon Ellen is, and maybe she is. I don't know. Okay. It's a little hard to believe, but okay. And then you're going to throw in a little bit of racism just for good measure, because the shit that you're saying she did is, we all kind of know it sounds ridiculous. What fucking boss hasn't been an asshole occasionally? I mean, she did, in her way, it seemed like she used her last stand-up special. I saw it on Netflix, by the way, that she used that to say goodbye, right? Because she felt like almost everyone hated her, and that those people who showed up were like the few people that were left who didn't hate her and they still loved her. That's the way, at least, I took what she said. I don't know. Like, I think still, even now, I don't think it's too far gone. Like, I think she should do an interview with somebody like a Diane Sawyer, someone who would be fair and let her speak her piece, whatever it is. I wish that she would preserve herself, because she is important. Like, she did a lot of stuff that I didn't like either. And maybe, that was her closure, was that last show. But I can't imagine that wasn't like a painful shift to have to go through. And even she said it in the show, which was funny. She was like, thank God for the money, right? Which, do I think Ellen is out of touch? Sure. Of course she is. They all are. You know what I mean? They don't live in reality. And after a few decades of that, you turn into a crazy person. But does it mean that everything that she's done over the past 10, 20, 30 years, that it means she goes straight into the garbage, into the annals of history? Like, no, not even. Like, she doesn't exist. Ellen, she was put out like a cigarette. And also, lesbian culture doesn't exist, so there's nobody to kind of have debates about this. But I don't understand how she can allow this to happen to her. And I'm sure she doesn't have a lot of choices, but I think she does have some avenues she could probably rely on. And, like, I don't know, ask somebody, whatever happened to Ellen? I promise you, nobody will have an answer, like a straightforward, she did this and she did that. Like, nobody has any idea what she did. They're just like, oh yeah, she was a cunt and she disappeared. You know what I'm saying? And then she turned around and she moved to England. I don't know what's going on. Like, everything is so crazy. And then she's drinking adrenochrome. She's not drinking adrenochrome. Was she guzzling quarts of adrenochrome? Maybe she was. I don't know. Maybe I'm talking, and then in the afterlife, I'm going to watch the video of myself talking about Ellen, and meanwhile, she's drinking adrenochrome. That's nice to drink baby's blood. That's not nice. You shouldn't drink baby's blood. I don't think that's a nice thing to do. And I'm saying it as a joke, but we don't really know anything. Who knows what fucking people do? We don't know. But I don't think Ellen really was downing quarts of adrenochrome. I don't think she was having adrenochrome Bloody Marys, literally. I don't think so. But maybe she was, because I have a friend that she thinks absolutely she was drinking adrenochrome. She knows for sure. So I don't know. I imagine that could be very isolating if you're addicted to baby's blood. Can somebody send this MP3 to Ellen? And I want to ask her, Ellen, do you drink baby's blood? You and your partner. Do you guys drink baby's blood adrenochrome? I don't know if you do or not. If you do, I don't want to be your friend. That's all I have to say about that. But so, I feel like she acquiesced to what they wanted her to become, just like an afterthought. As lesbians are right now, they're kind of an afterthought in the LGBTQ plus conversation. I know that everyone thinks that lesbians should just be folded into this big umbrella. We need to fold lesbians into this broader queer category. And the unique issues that lesbian women face, who cares? So, and I will say, there was a 2 or 3 year period where there was some writing on the lesbianmafia.com. I don't want to talk about the past because it's not just me, so you don't want to talk about other people when they're not present. But it wasn't just me at that time, and my judgment was skewed. So I didn't really overlook every letter that was posted on the lesbianmafia.com or on the Lesbian Mafia's Twitter. There was a lot of writing that was spectacular writing. So I just erased all of it when I got my marbles back because all of my marbles were in my mother's ass, really. So, it is very true. When your judgment is not everything that it should be, you really need to be careful who you have around you. That's all I'll say. But I do think that if you listen to the LGBTQ plus queer conversation, it has absolutely nothing to do with anything lesbian whatsoever. So we can get behind other issues, like the way lesbians got behind gay males with HIV and AIDS. But there is absolutely nothing and no discussion whatsoever about lesbian women and our unique experiences. I don't know, whatever. I'm just talking out of my ass, really. I do feel like the lesbian world is very quiet. I think the dearth of conversation about lesbian women, it's pretty deafening, but I don't think Ellen was someone that should just be erased and not given two flying shits about. Maybe COVID had something to do with that too, and the way they've turned political discourse into like the main course of everyone's conversation now, which it really isn't, frankly, because when you're hanging out with your friends or family even, that really isn't the stuff that people talk about. But, maybe the confusion about what's really going on with social media, there isn't really like a stable place to have these discussions online anymore because nobody's on Twitter anymore. Nobody's on Facebook. We have these kind of like other things like TikTok, which are like, what is that? It's just videos and okay. It's like a lot of videos. That's really not what adults do. They don't really sit down and watch 30, 40 videos every single night. That's not really, you know what I mean? Like a 15-year-old, 16-year-old, sure. So maybe that's part of it. But she still has access to legacy media, and I don't think it would be a waste of time to give like a real interview to say like, look, okay, maybe on, for that month I was a cunt, but basically for 30 fucking years I was pretty okay. She did in a way fade because the lesbian world that once upheld her as an icon, really, they've scattered and half of them don't even identify. I think what I'm really meaning to say is like what happened to Ellen isn't just about her. It's about how lesbian culture itself has been kicked out of everything. Like she was saying, oh, I got kicked out of show business. And in a sense, lesbians got kicked out of every business, So it really isn't just about her. It's about how lesbian culture itself has changed. There used to be clear spaces online and in real life where lesbians gathered, talked, and we shaped our own conversations. But now there aren't any lesbians anywhere, and half of them literally don't even want to be lesbian. They identify as men. So all of these spaces where LGBTQ plus spaces that are marketed to lesbians, they feel so fragmented and absorbed into this like broader LGBTQ, FU plus culture where lesbian identity is not central at all or distinct. So Ellen's fall from, I guess, relevance isn't just about her little controversy. It really isn't. It's a larger picture or like a reflection of how the lesbian community and culture has entirely, completely shifted. And I want to say shifted, but really it just doesn't exist anymore. You know, lesbians used to care. Now they don't even have shared spaces anymore to not care together. You know, it's written that there's about 22 lesbian spaces left, like nightclubs, but they're writing that there are lesbian spaces, but they're not. They're LGBTQ plus spaces because they cannot turn men down at the door. So they're being marketed, again, they're being marketed as lesbian parties, but they're not because any dude can walk in. So, you know, like when you're a kid, you walk into this community that's already there and you don't realize like, no, this was built. This was intentional. What you're experiencing was intentional. There was a reason why there was 15, 20 different lesbian-only spaces every night of the week. I mean, in big cities, okay? So in smaller cities, there was less. Okay, that's fine. But they still existed. Even the smaller cities, they had a lot going on. There was a vibrant lesbian community in every place you went. You know, if you went traveling, you'd be like, oh, where's the lesbian bar? Let's go and check it out and see what's going on here. And then sometimes you'd walk out of there, you know, horrified, but whatever. That's not the point. I guess ultimately the question is if Ellen falls in a forest and no lesbians exist to cancel her, did she ever exist? That is the question of the hour. Did Ellen ever exist? Did lesbians ever exist? At this stage of the game, it really isn't even crazy to think like, could lesbians stop existing altogether, you know? Because I'm a lesbian and the women that I'm attracted to are women who identify as lesbian. And that ain't too shabby because when you don't know who you're dating, what their history is, and you really can't even ask. And if you do ask, that means that you're some kind of a bigot if you kind of want to know their history. And if you don't want to sleep with men, then you're a bigot too. If you don't want to sleep with everyone on the planet, somehow you're a bigot. We've been dealing with this for a very long time. Like lesbians have been dealing with everyone who we won't fuck, calling us bigots. I'm sorry to be so frank, only in the context of this conversation. But so anyway, I guess that's a little bit of something that I wanted to just discuss because I think it's so weird. It's such a weird thing. Like, I'm glad that we don't hear from celebrities anymore. Like, nobody cares. There's no place for them to go and showboat, and nobody gives a fuck. And that's not to say that they're all assholes, because they're not. But celebrity culture has taken a little bit of a back seat right now, which I think is good, because they were doing a lot of stuff that was not good for a very, very long time. Anyway, thank you for listening. I thought I would just talk a little bit about this because I'm sad for Ellen and for her partner. And I'm also sorry about that blog that was posted on there. I will say that it was not written by me, and I'm not trying to kick up any old stuff, so that's why I haven't spoken about it up until this point. It was never on the podcast because that's not how I really, well, anyway, again, and for most of the other people that were written about who maybe could listen here, I don't know. There were a few people that There was some a little bit nasty, it was a little bit Gawker-ish, like if anybody remembers Gawker. There was a few posts that I was like, oh, wow, this is really getting, Anyway, again, I don't want to talk about shit from the past that I'm not connected to in any way, shape, or form, that I wish I would have had my head on more straight back then, but I didn't. And this is life, life sometimes doesn't go the way you think it should. So, but anyway, my best to Ellen and Portia, they were a little bit of our lesbian royalty. Even if you don't have to like your royalty, you don't have to be in love with them. And they could be a little bit of assholes. You wish they weren't, but maybe they were a little bit of assholes. So what? I'm sure there's people listening right now who are like, yeah, you're a fucking asshole. Anyway, nothing matters. Lesbians don't matter. Lesbians don't exist. Have a good day. Ciao for now.
Now they got new definitions, try to force their revisions. Like reality or sexuality don't mean a thing. Like my voice ain't worth hearing. Community turn its back, put me on a different track. But I know it's real to me. Ain't gonna let them change what I see. Every morning in the glass, reflection on my past. They can try to change the game, but my sexuality stays the same. Got my people who know true, been there since earlier. Won't let nobody take what I know about me today. Remember who I was before they changed the labels. Remember who I was, reality was stable. Who I was, who I was, who I was. Remember who I was, can't erase my story. Remember who I was, that's my territory.